Joining us in the studio, us kya, मैं ही बैठा हूँ, and Manisha. Hello Manisha Pandey. Also joining us is our co-conspirator Jayashree, who is joining us from Chennai. From Delhi is Seema Chishti, editor with The Wire.
For a government that has amended Article 370 without the assembly being in place, with just the governor's nod, surely Article 82 is no obstruction. But it's just that the way in which the bill has been written is to make it contingent on the census and the delimitation.
If I remember correctly, Esther Duflo had done this study where she went to some of these states in the north, and she said that even if women leaders at the grassroots are used as rubber stamps by their husbands, they're still more likely to invest in issues that are of importance to women.
And we were discussing about TMC, but honestly, it's quite remarkable when we covered the state assembly elections, the number of women that she put up. And you can see the difference on the ground. You know, I have never felt safer as a woman in a TMC rally than anywhere else, because it's the whole thing is really catered towards women, and that's right, because the chief minister's woman. She's put up so many women candidates.
In Ajoy Bose's book Behenji, he has mentioned that when Mayawati became chief minister, the number of FIRs filed against Thakurs for raping Dalit women went up, because earlier, in fact, one woman recorded she cut off the penis of the guy who used to rape her regularly, because after getting drunk, these Thakurs used to go to the where the marginalized communities used to live and drag out anyone they wanted. Move on to Canada.
It's a very critical moment for India. They've just come out of this kind of G20 thing where even getting out a statement was impossible. They got a statement, etc. As to how you sort of articulate your position in a rapidly changing, crazy world. Like you have this multipolar kind of mess, etc. And if India is to kind of position itself, this throws up a whole lot of challenges.
The advisories that each country issued, that be careful. मैंने कहा, एक तो whenever anyone from any country tells an Indian be careful in our country, I'm like, beta, I'm coming from India. Like when I was at Bridge London, no, don't go there. There if you go at such and such time at night, I was, dude, you cannot send me to a more dangerous place than where I come from.
Welcome to Chhota Hafta. Now, Chhota Hafta is but a small, chhota version of a complete weekly podcast, News Laundry Hafta. The News Laundry Hafta is where you get the week's news, what made the headlines, what didn't make the headlines, but the full version is available to subscribers only. And I don't mean YouTube subscribers, although YouTube subscribers are also very welcome, we're very grateful to you, but also to News Laundry subscribers, the paying subscribers who pay to keep news free. So you can also become a paying subscriber by clicking the subscription link. Now, what do you get if you're a paying subscriber? You get access to all our paywall content, all interviews, podcasts, and importantly, you get access to a full unedited Hafta, where you not only get to hear the week's news, but you get to hear the News Laundry editors' positions on matters. You get to see their biases, what are their prejudices. It's an exercise in transparency while also informing you, and we have a few quips and jokes and agreements and disagreements thrown in. So listen to the full Hafta, subscribe to News Laundry, and pay to keep news free. Here we go.
अंग्रेज अपना लगान और न्यूज लॉन्ड्री अपना हफ्ता कभी नहीं छोड़ते. Welcome to another episode of NL Hafta. We're recording this on the 21st of September on Thursday at 3 p.m. And news just coming in. The Indian mission has suspended visas to Canadian citizens. We shall get into that later in the discussion. But let's get the headlines.
The Indian men's cricket team have crushed their Sri Lankan counterparts by 10 wickets in the Asia Cup final. They lift their 8th title after a gap of 5 years.
So this was on the back of a phenomenal bowling performance, right, Seema, by one of our new bowlers?
Mohammad Siraj, yeah.
And Ravi Shastri asked him after the match, kaun si biryani khai?
Oh, and what did he say?
Nothing, but it was like, what a strange question. Like the Muslim identity is like directly related, whether it is Sudhir doing it in another context, this whole biryani Muslim thing.
Swiggy put out these figures of what is the most ordered meal. It's actually biryani. So there's one thing that actually unites India, it's the biryani in its various forms. So it's even more tragic as to how something that is like vastly loved is turned into this very sectarian. And no, I would also worry about it. I'm a huge cricket nut. I'm a huge fan. And it worries me if a senior cricketer finds that to ask in 2023.
But it can also, considering the negative connotations biryani is always put in with like
But why is it a Muslim thing? That's what I'm saying. It's just
Festive thing.
Yeah, for various reasons, I'm sure. But it really started with Mr. Advani in a
now. Seema, please tell us and our audience about this bill.
the last delimitation we had was in 2009. And that was the first time we had the delimitation after 1971. So the way things go in India, delimitation is not just it's not just accounting. It has an impact. It gets influenced, and it in turn influences politics.
And specifically this time, it is going to be very controversial because there is a fear that delimitation would provide more seats for the northern states rather than the southern states, thus making the southern states pretty much irrelevant when it comes to picking the government in the center.
There'll be a lot of acrimony, and also it kind of it rewards states that have not been able to control their population.
Right.
The whole reason why there was a bill brought in and seats were frozen till 2026 in 2000, when the Vajpayee government was in power, was the assumption that our birth rates and growth rates will even out by then.
I'm sure a lot of people's work has gone into it, but because anyone give an idea of the journey of wanting 33% reservation in all elected bodies in India?
Well, I mean, it's true that it started off with Rajiv Gandhi, who under his government you had a committee, a 14-member committee, Margaret Alva heading it, who basically first gave this proposal of having reservation for women in elected bodies. Then Narasimha Rao comes and gives it to the rural elections, so Panchayati Raj. And then subsequently, we've had Deve Gowda, I think, was the first prime minister who introduced it.
He introduced it in 96.
Yeah, he was the first one to introduce it.
D. Raja tweeted, the cause of women reservation in Lok Sabha and State Assembly was heralded by the CPI. CPI MP Geeta Mukherjee's struggle for women reservation made her name synonymous to the cause.
But D. Raja in the very same speech also said that no single party can take credit for it.
I think so, yeah. I think it's accurate. The time, I mean, I guess right now we've been able to pass it because the time has come. The only real opposition to it throughout, and Seema would be able to elaborate on this would be OBC leaders, right?
Mulayam, Sharad.
Those were the ones.
Yeah, I mean, Sharad Yadav with his famous kind of parkati comment. ऐसे होगा तो सिर्फ परकटी महिलाएं बैठेंगी, women with short hair, symbolizing so there's been a very legitimate and a genuine kind of a fear amongst people who kind of argued for OBCs being pushed ahead and getting their due, that gender was always used as an alternative kind of a sword brought into battle in order to cut back conversation about caste and social backwardness.
Mahua Moitra interestingly pointed out that their party did not need this bill because
they have so many women.
They have a third of their representatives are women. Is that true? And if that is, that's,
it's remarkable.
I think TMC had allotted 41% of its seats to women. I think TMC, BJD also a few years ago, right? BJD had said some 33% or 35%. There is one political party in Tamil Nadu that has consistently for the past 4 years allotted 50% of its tickets for women in elections. This is the Non-Tamil Kachhi.
But on this issue of reservation as opposed to an organic evolution into,
No, I don't think organic evolutions happen. We have had, 75 years. 84 women MPs we have in Lok Sabha. So that it just doesn't happen organically. And it's a shame because women now make a huge difference with the votes they cast. They're a decisive factor in every election. We're 51%. Sometimes we're outnumbering men when it comes to voting turnout. Election after election, we've seen women are beating men when it comes to voting turnout. So I don't think organically kuch hoga. You have to enforce some kind of quota to get this to an optimal level because it's quite shameful right now, the representation. And the issue of whether an elite woman will take away the chances of a rural man in an electoral fight, I find that I don't see that happening at all. Because I will move on to Canada, but not before the following announcements. The Monu Manesa documentary film has been very well received. Thank you, all of you. Many of you have shared it, etc., etc. But I'm going to check out the last numbers, how much we are behind on its cost. 6 lakh was our goal. We are at 4,10,000. Documentaries like this not only take time, energy, effort, but a great deal of risk. So if you expect people to go out, put themselves in harm's way and come back with something, we have to be able to reward them. This is done in collaboration with some other filmmakers who don't even want their name put on the film. That's the risk it takes. So it would be great if you guys can top this fund up.
so that we can commission more such investigative reports. Because if you were to go by what news tells you, they just focus on the guy, whether he was carrying beef or was he carrying mutton or was he carrying Nutri-Nuggets. Whereas we focus on, this is the guy, this is the support he has, and this camera actually accompanied him on his practice raids. So it would be great if you guys can support journalism such as this, because we believe it matters, and I believe so do you. So get out your debit, credit cards, or UPI, whatever else it is. The Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, said this in his parliament, and it led to all sorts of things, which we shall come to.
Last number of weeks, Canadian security agencies have been actively pursuing credible allegations of a potential link between agents of the government of India and the killing of a Canadian citizen, Hardeep Singh Nijjar.
And how do the Canadian media react? Manisha can tell us, and then how a panel reacts, we shall get to know.
The leader of the opposition first in Canada, Conservatives, who's supposed to be now winning the next elections, they came and said that Trudeau should have given proof. He's not told us anything more than what he said on the floor of Parliament, so this is a bit strange. And also pointed to the fact that we've had credible intelligence of China interfering in elections, China taking 2 of our citizens on hostage. We never made a public statement out of that. So what has happened, we don't know, for Trudeau to make such a public statement. No one in Canada called the leader of the opposition, Tukde gang, for questioning their prime minister.
And Washington Post, I think, had reported that Trudeau had pushed these countries to come out with a joint statement condemning India during the G20, but all of them, including the US, turned them down. And then you kind of contrast this with the poisoning of those 2 Russians in England in 2018. What was the name? Sergei and somebody's script. So at the time, Russia was accused. It denied carrying it out. And then the US, UK, and Canada were among like 20 countries that expelled over 100 Russian diplomats in response to the news. But in this case, I mean, Trudeau's allegations aren't seeing the same sort of impact.
I'm just saying that A ridiculous accusation without evidence. B, expelling something, then of course India has to expel someone in return.
Yeah.
But this cancelling of visas and saying that, it has nothing to do with this, it's just, I think it is going to snowball into something that was easily avoidable. And Manisha's theory, of course, is that this guy needs the support of the radicals, Sikh Conservative Party in Canada to survive.
I mean,
so
it's not my theory. It's a lot of analysts are saying. But not because of sheer numbers of the population, because this is 2% of the Sikh of the population is Sikh diaspora, of which maybe a handful of them are Khalistani.
There were maybe his internal compulsions, and of course he'll have, he's on a different chessboard, he's managing his pawns and, various other pieces on the chessboard. But the whole idea of a security establishment in a G7 country is quite different from just the presidency or the prime ministership. Like, we know how the CIA fought Trump, or, how the CIA was at odds with Kennedy. So there are all those things, that there is a security establishment that has certain conclusions. And now I think it was put out by the Globe, Daily Mail, and and I think also the National Post in Canada, that Trudeau was forced to say this, not because he wanted to necessarily, but
is the current frostiness or anger or lack of trust between the 2 countries only restricted to these 2 issues? I don't think so. There's a very legitimate grouse that India harbors, which is that these guys like Nijjar, he's seen in videos with AK-47, training Sikh youths. He's accused in a bombing. He's been accused in multiple targeted killings. He's possibly has, and it's not, and forget the India aspect to it, even within Canada, he is part of this very complex gang plus Khalistani plus criminal syndicate which are involved in all sorts of things. So there are these actors who are carrying on whatever they're doing in Canada safely, and India has a position that, listen, this can't go on. These guys can't be, which embassy would be okay with having their own diplomats in a situation where, their lives could be in threat?
Bas, muft mein itna ich milega. For the full uncut podcast, subscribe to News Laundry and pay to keep news free. The best way to listen to The Hafta and indeed all our podcasts is through the News Laundry app. You can download the app by clicking on the links given in the show notes. So do download our app and get the best podcast experience. And also pay for news and support a new news media ecosystem that News Laundry is trying to encourage. where we are accountable to you because we run on contributions that you make. We don't take government ads, we don't take corporations ads, so that news serves the public, because when the public pays, the public is served. Subscribe to News Laundry, click on the link in the show notes below and proudly say, I pay to keep news free.